Hello, hello, and welcome to Shared Space with Chap and Quita. Today we have Sananda with us. I'm super happy that I bumped into you this weekend at the mental health. What was that? It was a mental health fair?
Fair. Yep. Mental health fair. Facilitated and hosted by the Y of Central Maryland. Yep.
Yes,
Awesome.
and it was in Drew Hill. Yep, it was bomb.com. Saw a lot of familiar faces. We talked a lot about mental health and all the great stuff. So let me introduce myself. I am Laquita Chansey. I'm the founder and director of Baltimore Homes, and we build micro shelters and tiny homes for people who are experiencing homelessness or housing insecurity. And we advocate for affordable housing. Chat, tell the people who you are.
I'm Chat, mostly not in, but I am Vice President of Power Fest Baltimore. It's a one-day festival intended to showcase nonprofits in Baltimore, bring everybody to the table, have some entertainment, just have a really good time and introduce and connect people to resources they may not know were available in Baltimore. Um, and that's the short version. Um, COVID kind of set us back. So in the meantime, during COVID season, we've been building relationships with people that we would have pursued to put into the festival. Now we're able to build relationships with them and help them serve and pour some resources and make connections along the way, which is really building for a better festival when we get down to it. So we're excited about that. So I would like to, Mr. Sananda, if you can introduce yourself.
Will do. First of all, thank you both for having me on. It is such an extreme pleasure. It was interesting. First of all, meeting you, Chap, this evening. Real quick, I was having a quick second to kind of chop it up before we got started, and then meeting Quita this past weekend was super interesting. She's ever so humble. She did not tell me she was that Quita because I've definitely heard of her and the work that she's doing, the work that you all doing. She just came in as, "Hi, Quita. I'm Quita. What you got going on over here?" Just really attentive and listening and all that. But she didn't tell me she was that Quita. So that was really interesting. Again, just excited to be here. Again, my name is Sananda Edwards. I am the co-founder and director of community engagement for Above It All. We are a mental health program servicing young people ages 5 to 17 in and around Baltimore. And we offer what's called PRP services. So in a nutshell, what that means is young people who are in need of therapy, who are already in therapy for a host of different mental health struggles, depression, anxiety, grief, all of those things. If their therapist feels that they could benefit from not only therapy, but from a one-on-one counselor to kind of help them reach therapeutic goals, that's where Above It All comes into play. We assign them a one-on-one counselor, again, to work with the therapist and work with their parent or guardian to help them reach those therapeutic goals.
All right. All right. Well, man, I can't wait to dive into that. Mr. Omar has joined us over at Morgan State with, Omar, if you'd like to introduce yourself, welcome to the
Hey,
show. And I know you're in
yeah,
limited time, so we'll get to you first.
yeah, it's all good. Great afternoon. Well, actually, good evening, everybody. Omar Mohammed, Morgan State University, the Entrepreneurial Development and Assistance Center. We call it EDAC, EDAC for short. So glad to be here to provide resources for the community.
Great. So I sat on in a meeting with Mr. Omar, and I didn't know if you wanted to share some of the things you're doing, maybe share with the community who will be listening later or watching now, uh, things you're pursuing, things you need, any kind of support, as well as what exactly you guys can offer to returning citizens.
All right, good deal. Well, first of all, for having me on board. This is probably my first time using this platform. As you can see, I'm on my phone. I don't know what happened. I tried to connect on my laptop, but nonetheless, I'm here. That's all that matters. So we've been around since 1992. I was actually a student at Morgan State University. Yeah, go Bears. I was a student at Morgan State University. Took on this position back in December the 3rd, 2003 to be exact. And what we do is we have a number of resources to help different, I call it demographic entrepreneurs. So of course we're helping the students, faculty, and staff on campus. We also have a women business center. We're working with women veterans of color. And just last year, we were able to secure a grant via the Minority Business Development Agency, which is based out of DC, to work with returning citizens or formerly incarcerated individuals. And what we do with those individuals is we offer them an opportunity to learn more about entrepreneurship. So we have a 2-day boot camp. For 3 hours each day. And then those individuals who finish, they'll have an opportunity to receive additional resources from the EDAC, I'm going to say conglomerate, if you will, because we got different resources. But the RIDE program, it involves that 2-day boot camp. We also have a podcast. We have a podcast called The Breakthrough Podcast. Myself and Leon Robinson III, who's also a Morganite, a formerly incarcerated individual, and he's killing it in the real estate game. So he and I, we do that podcast together. And then those individuals who complete the program, just like at Morgan, you have an alumni association. Well, we have a RIDE association. So those individuals who finish, those individuals work together to support one another, whether it's their business or any challenge that they have in life, or to provide resources to each other. So I'm really excited about that opportunity because we just started that this year. We got about 5 founding members. I mean, they're happy to hear that they're founding members. So as we go along, we want to continue to increase that effort as well. And then we have an annual conference. The annual conference is going to take place in August of 2022. So if individuals are interested, they could just go onto our website. The website is EDAC Morgan. That's edacmorgan.com. And you'll learn not only about the RIDE program, which stands for Returning Citizens Inspired to Develop Entrepreneurial Ventures. I know it's long. I like acronyms. So it's long and it fits in there. You can learn about the RIDE program, our veterans program, and we work with young individuals too. We do an annual youth entrepreneurship conference that used to take place in May, but now it's virtual, and many of these students, although they're using their devices, they don't like to be virtual. So we have to figure out a way to bring the conference back to the campus. We would bring 500 students on the campus of Morgan State University and expose them to entrepreneurship. So we actually do that as well. So edacmorgan.com is the website. If you are a women-owned business and you're looking for one-on-one business counseling, you can come on board, and you can. Our website for that is BALT, BALT, Metro, WBC .org. And we have a Beyond the Elements program too. LaQuanda, you were on it, right? I think I interviewed you.
Yes, Laquita, I was on it.
I told you the wrong name. Laquita.
It's okay. It's okay. You see how I just corrected you and kept talking? It's fine.
My wife be correcting me.
Hey, she's been called worse.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah, she was one of the individuals that was on the Beyond the Elements podcast. So we really thank you for that.
I'm really excited to hear about your program. Of course, I was really excited about the reentry program, but you do you're not exclusive, right? You're serving women veterans, you're serving youth, you're serving everybody, and pouring into them. I think what I'm hearing, and I'm really encouraged by this, is the brotherhood, gender notwithstanding, but the family vibe as you're integrating people and learning together and building a network together is like seriously significant. I'll tell you that because I work a lot with guys reentering, ex-offenders and everything. And man, I love my guys, man. And to the point where my 18-year-old just graduated high school, and this summer he started a landscaping business because he's mixed, and I wanted to encourage him to build his own, not necessarily ask a white man for permission to take a day off or a raise or ask him for anything. I want him to empower himself. And so trying to drive home that entrepreneur spirit, most of the guys he turns to when he doesn't know how to price something, or he needs to borrow some equipment, or, he needs some extra work as things are slow, are former, ex-offenders, I guess, or returned citizens who are entrepreneurs. So like my man Earl Young will give him a call and say, hey, bro, what are you doing today? I got a job I can't get to. They need moved from here to here, and he'll call my son up and take care of them. Just this week, we're down on like Maryland Avenue helping some young brothers. They were doing a move, and same thing. It was a guy who was no longer incarcerated, who has built his business up, and he's putting on young men in the city and teaching them to do the same, and encouraging them and empowering them to the point where they're even reaching out to my son, who's like 18 years old, fresh out of high school, but they see he wants to work, and so they bring him in and treat him like family. And I think there's a uniqueness to that demographic of people, in my experience, people who have been locked up and then they're trying to turn it around. There's a genuineness, there's a hustle, and there's something different about them that is just more, and like I said, again, not that we serve ex-offenders exclusively, but there's such a genuineness and love and family vibe there that is so genuine. You have to acknowledge it. So I appreciate that aspect of what you're doing, along with the other stuff, the veterans, and always the youth, right? The youth is
absolutely.
They're our leaders. They're not our future. They're our now leaders, and we need them to step up, stand on our shoulders, and take the reins, man. So I appreciate all you're doing over there. Yeah.
Yep. And thank you for agreeing to be on our advisory board too, because we definitely need that as well. And for those individuals, and I threw the website out there, but I know people love to use their phone. So if you just text the word RIDE 21 to 797979, you'll get the application. So that's RIDE 21, and if you text that to 797979, so 3 79s, y'all, and you'll get that. And I'm also a resource too, so if people are interested in getting started in the business, look at you. That is nice. Look at that. That's it right there, 797. So if people are interested in getting started in business, I'm here to help out, and I don't mind giving my cell number. That's the best way to reach me. 443-739-8955. You have anybody interested in starting a business, especially those returning citizens. We always are looking for people to showcase on our podcast. So if you are one of those individuals, you can get back to me by calling or texting me at 443-739-8955.
What's the number one more time?
443-739-8955.
Make sure I get it right.
Yep. There you go. Yep. There you go.
You can text there. You can give them a call. I'd love to put you on with some of the guys, like I said, who are pouring into my son, just unsolicited, right? Just that Baltimore vibe. They're helping out a young brother who wants to work,
Right.
So
right.
I respect that. So Sananda, sorry, I'm struggling with the name, man. I'm still learning.
So no problem. Look, I'm a lot like Quita. It's fine. I get it all the time.
Hey, so you do basketball?
You say it again?
Do you do basketball? I feel like I've seen you on the court.
Nah, I don't. I wish I did. In my younger days, yeah, a little bit, very little bit. But other than that, nah, I'm a spectator nowadays.
And of course, I guess you're a Morgan Bear, right? Go Bears.
Always, yeah.
Where you guys?
Former and always.
There you go. Where do you guys operate out of when you're serving the youth then?
So our offices are actually at 638 North Gilmore Street. That's actually the former, it's the old Wiley Funeral Home. The new Wiley Funeral Home is actually now on Mount Street, which is diagonal from where we are now. And again, that's pretty significant to us because it's Al Wiley, who is the owner and president of Wiley Funeral Home, is actually a huge reason why Above It All got started. The co-founders are myself, his son, Brandon Wiley, and then you have Michael Miller, James Crowder, and then Ashley Rock. And to keep a long story short, I'll just say we sat down with Mr. Wiley one day, Mr. Al Wiley one day, and he kind of talked to us about the funeral business. He talked about young people, just like we were talking about today, talking about young people. And he said that on Tuesday, you will have a young person come into his funeral home because they're there to watch a funeral of a friend who they've lost. Then on Thursday, you see those same young people coming in for another funeral of a friend that they've lost. And then sadly, potentially, on that Saturday, one of those young people who came to a funeral, it's now their funeral. And he asked a very simple question: what are you guys going to do about it? So we thought about, being from Morgan, a lot of us attending Morgan, the first thing we thought about, maybe we could start like a scholarship fund, something that we can kind of put some money together and help some young people get some books, or help them to kind of pay for their education in some way. Another thing that we want to do with that money potentially is exactly what I'm saying that Omar is doing an amazing job at, is understanding that not everyone doesn't want to go to college. Chap, you talked about that, right? Not everyone wants to go to college. So that same money could potentially go to someone who either wants to go to college, maybe they want to be an entrepreneur, start a business, or maybe they might want to go into the military, they might want to go into school and learn a trade, whatever it is that they want to do. We want to be able to kind of support those efforts. That was the first thought. That we said, we're going to try something a little different. Second thing we decided, or we thought that we were going to do, was maybe an after-school program. Let's start an after-school program. We'll get with some young people, kind of guide them for a couple weeks and figure out how we can kind of mentor them to be at their best. And that idea kind of fizzled out because we came up with something that we thought would be a little bit stronger. We figured that, what was the one thing that we could have benefited from when we were children, going through the different things that we would go through, the different obstacles that we were faced with. What is it? What type of place would we have wanted when we were children? Myself personally, I lost my father when I was 12 years old. He was actually Vietnam veteran, in the military, came home, started to raise a family, but he committed suicide when I was 12 years old. So having that on my shoulders, kind of sometimes feeling like it may have been my fault in some ways. I know I struggled with mental health, my own mental health obstacles. Of course, I find out years later that he dealt with bipolar disorder, manic depression, and PTSD, right? Again, mental health disorders. So all that being said, we made the decision to start an organization again that we would have wanted to be a part of. And that's where Above It All came from, helping young people kind of face these mental health obstacles that many of us are having, adults included, right? That many of us are having, and finding ways again to kind of figure out the personal blueprint, because nothing nowadays is cookie cutter. There's no way something's going to work for me and work for Omar and work for Chap and work for Quita. It's not going to happen. So we have to figure out how to help young people find their personal blueprint for success, but use it through the lens of mental health.
Which is important. Yeah. If I could jump in before I jump off, mental health is truly important. Oftentimes, entrepreneurs, they put together their business plan, and I'm always saying to them, do you have a section in there for your health, your mental health? Because you're always running and running. And if you're always going to be running and running, that will wear on your body, your mind, and soul. So put together a mental health, and even take a mental health day or days.
Yes.
Days. Take off so that you can come back refreshed. So I applaud you with what you're doing with that. It should.
Oh, he disconnected.
Yeah, I think it's good that the kids are learning at such an early age how to deal with mental health in a healthy way. You know what I mean? Not when it's too late. And Omar, you're back, so go ahead.
I don't know what happened, but I'm here. I'm back. I was just saying, make sure that you all connect with me as well.
Absolutely, will do. Hey, look, I'm already writing down your contact information. Look, you're going to receive a text from me soon.
We'll make sure he has information. Real quick before you leave, I also want to point out that Omar, do you guys have a pitch contest? Because Sananda was talking about like finding ways to get money in people's hands who maybe are not led towards college. One way we can do that is a pitch contest. You want to go over that real quick before we have to go?
Yep. So through our RIDE program, we do have a pitch competition. So every 3 classes, we have a pitch competition. So for those individuals who are participating in the one for next week, which is December, for people who listen to it now and in the future, don't worry about the future, but it's December the 14th and 15th. If you participate in those 2 classes, the pitch competition will be on the 19th, January the 19th, from 10 to 1. And you'll have an opportunity to win some funds to help you get started in your business. And not only that, the money is good. You'll also have an opportunity to receive one-on-one business counseling as well.
Yeah, I think it's a good incentive, but the value, you'll also learn the value of the boot camp is much more valuable than whatever the prize is for that pitch contest, but it also helps.
Yep, absolutely.
So I appreciate that opportunity you're creating, man. That's awesome, bro.
Yep. And thank you all again for having me on, and looking forward to expanding my network and to be a support and add value to what you all are doing as well.
Yes, sir. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, Mr. Omar.
All right, take care. Y'all can stop calling me Mr.
Omar. We'll talk soon.
I'm only 21. Y'all just call me Omar.
All right.
Y'all. All right.
All right, bye-bye.
So, Quita, you were saying, you were commenting on the mental health.
Oh, yeah, the mental health of it all, because I feel like in our community, it's really hard for people to understand that mental health is something that you need to work on daily. Like, it's not something that you see somebody break, crack, or fizzle, whatever, adjective you want to use, and then you do mental health. No, it's like, it's a preventative, it's a precursor. And I know that a lot of us also think that it's taboo. But in so many ways, I grew up going to therapy because my mother was told that, as part of your drug addiction and recovery, you need to go through therapy. And she was like, well, now I'm going through stuff that I don't know how to deal with my kids. And so now my kids need to come to therapy. And, we were able to talk through those kinds of things. So it's interesting when I'm telling my friends, I'm like, well, I've been in therapy, and not therapy all my life. I go and get a tune-up every now and again, or sometimes when I'm working for the man, so to speak, I'm in therapy all the time because of the way that corporate America tries me all day long. But in the work with the community, I go and get my tune-ups here and there. But with COVID, I really needed to delve into some of those things that I've learned because it's been hard.
It's huge. It's huge. It is absolutely good to hear that, first of all, that your mom is recovering. That's amazing. The fact that during that time, she insisted on you getting therapy as well, because again, there are always these what we call ripple effects, right? Like the trauma that we go through, others are impacted by that trauma. So it's important for us to, again, get the help that we need. But again, the point that you're making, it's so important. It's vital for young people to have an understanding that we're trying to get rid of that taboo. We're trying to break down that, you hear it often, break down the stigma of mental health. I think that it's true that humans, and we hear it, humans in general, we're survivalists. It's what we've, kind of been born to do, right? And then there is absolutely a certain resilience that that Blacks are said. We are resilient. We can kind of get through everything. And all that's great. It's cool. Right. But the reality of the matter is, and it's something, it's interesting. I learned this probably about a month and a half ago, that we have to be careful of what we say. Resilience is good, but it's not something we should always have to lean on. We shouldn't have to lean on being wronged so much and being able to bounce back from it. That's not okay. Some minutes to kind of hear like, wow, that's
somebody. Yeah, somebody in the hood put it to me like this, man. He said that, especially being from Baltimore, regardless of race, creed, or color, you learn to survive.
Right.
You can make it here. You used to say that about New York, but New York's been gentrified, but Baltimore, truly, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere in the U.S., man. And that said, is that although we do it, we're not intended to be in survival mode 24/7 for long periods of time, right? It's supposed to get us to the next safe space.
Yes.
And most of us don't always make it to the next safe space. We just get in survival mode and we just survive and survive and survive until, something more traumatic erupts.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So,
and like you said, it's sad. And that's why it's important for us to have conversations like this. It's important for us to figure out our support systems, figure out who we need to be a part of our support system, obviously including a therapist, right? But just understanding those people who you can kind of lean on, where it's okay for me to say, I'm not okay. I'm not feeling great. I don't know exactly what's going on, but my head is not in the right place, because a lot of times it's easier for us to go to negative coping mechanisms consistently than it is for us to either find that person who's willing to listen or find that therapist who can help us kind of get the healing that we're after. It's important to do that. No question.
Right. One thing I will say is that in some circumstances, like, I'm constantly dealing with people who are unhoused, they feel isolated. And one of the things I suggest is, if you don't trust who you're around, or you don't feel like you can speak to people who are near you, start to journal, like read the Bible, interpret what you're reading, because at some point, like, your mind needs to be occupied and busy, but with something that is productive. Absolutely. You know what I mean? And so in some ways, I think that journaling can be cathartic to a lot of people as well.
It's huge. It's probably one of the biggest things that, and again, I'm not a therapist. I always have to kind of preface everything I say with that. I am not a therapist. I am a mental health advocate. I am an author of a book called The Extraordinary Mr. Nobody, A Beginner's Guide to Self-Healing. But I am not a therapist. But what I do is I work with a lot of therapists, and one of the biggest things that they talk about is journaling. Again, to your point, making sure that you're putting those thoughts down, putting those feelings down, having some type of way to kind of vent, even if it's not to a person. Like you said, you're able to kind of get those emotions out. I do this presentation. I'll be doing it tomorrow, where we talk about the number of emotions that there are, like 34,000 different emotions that a person can have. So many different emotions. Yes, there are about 8 or 9 primary ones, but there are so many different emotions that you can have. And the reality is, we have to get those emotions out. If we keep them bottled up, we'll definitely have issues. So journaling is extraordinarily important. No question about it.
Yeah, with the journaling, I'm gonna let you go, chat. But with the journaling, I think that it helps to be able to call a thing a thing. Because sometimes I wake up and I'm anxious or I'm frustrated, and it's like, I just woke up? How do I feel like this? What is in the back of my mind or my subconscious? And first thing I check is what bills are due. Like, look, what assignments are due? Who was I supposed to return an email to and didn't? Because it's something that's lingering. That's like, hey, you need to do this, but it's making me antsy. And being able to put my finger on that thing and check it off and get it out my head is like, okay, now that that's done, let's deal with some of the real stuff that's going on in front of me. So Tell me about your book. Wait a minute. Say the title again. Run that back, because you just
run it back. Okay, will do. So the name of the book is The Extraordinary Mr. Nobody, A Beginner's Guide to Self-Healing. And in that book, interestingly enough, like you said, Quita, it started off as journal entries. It was journal entries. It was me venting, me putting things out there that I was dealing with. But again, not putting it out to the public, putting it out again to myself, journaling about it. And then as time went on, people generally often said that I had this knack of being a pretty good listener. And then when called upon, helping people kind of solve problems, or at least look at options, give them options. Well, here are the options that you had, right? So eventually that just turned into a book, me journaling and kind of sharing my ideas, sharing my thoughts. So the biggest push behind the book is just helping people to understand It's kind of like them using my life and the mistakes that I've made, the different obstacles that I've had to kind of overcome, and being able to use that to reflect on themselves and kind of say, wow, I wonder what I would have done in that situation, or to look at some of the things that maybe they've gone through so that they can kind of push themselves again to be their better selves. I am proud to say that it was actually a self-published book. It came out in 2018 in I think May of 2018. Actually, Mental Health Awareness Month is when I put it out. But I am again proud to say that it has been picked up by a publisher, Full Circle Press, out of California. So the hope is that it will be re-released. The hope is that it will be re-released into like schools and different places across the country. But I'm very, very proud of the work that it has been doing in a short amount of time.
And it's on Amazon. Yes. It's on Amazon.
It is. It is absolutely on Amazon.
It's let me see where my camera is. It's right there if you need the title.
Right.
I'm super encouraged. It's funny because that's what I was going to comment on. And you guys are in the spirit, man. I was going to comment on Quita saying about journaling is that I don't do it. I should do it or should do it more. But journaling, what happens is when you can articulate your story and your thoughts, you can articulate and navigate life in general better and more healthy, right? Everything's not so off the hip, right? Everything's more thoughtful. Everything's more intentional. Everything you do becomes more intentional. And then what I think happens is like you just announced, like your book, right, came from journaling. So if we can encourage our young people as part of their mental health or just part of them being human, man, like journal everything that you can. When you make time to journal later down the road, you can take even just a portion of that journal can become a book, and one book can become like 20 streams of income, right? You can just talk about one portion or one experience. And on top of that, it's documented. It's so that it's not you trying to remember, you have everything right there. Right. And it's so important to be accurate and articulate the truth and not maybe like what you think happened, but here's what happened. I wrote it down when it happened. It's so much value there. And I try to encourage my young men, my sons, not just my blood sons, but all my sons, because what will happen is people will forget. They'll forget the context of what happened, but they'll remember the data. And then they'll lean on the data as proof of like what happened. And that's not always the case. And case in point, like for instance, for example, like the state's attorney not prosecuting a lot of crime, right? What will happen is 10 years from now, everybody will forget the context of what Baltimore was like, but the numbers will show that there wasn't a lot of prosecutions. So it'll look like crime was down. So it's just a way that, like with like an example I use for the young men now is like, if you guys write it down, the context, what it smelled like, what it looked like, what it sounded like, and you guys can remember the truth and you can pass that truth on, and it won't just be, especially in America, it just won't be the white history or the white documented truth or the government's truth. It will be our truth that we can pass on. And that's so much value in that. It's so important to have that because we've gotten away from that, right? Like, so, Quita heard me say it before, like our public school system where I've researched some of my Native ancestry, and in all cultures, my Native American culture, my African culture, my Italian culture, all of my cultures taught that you would have maybe 20, 30, 40 elders in investing in one child to awaken that child to his truth, right? But what happens is we flipped it in public school where now we have one teacher trying to just disseminate rhetoric to 40 children. There is no awakening. There is no conversation. It's just here's one person's interpretation of everything, and they deliver it, and then they put a stamp on it, and they call that education. And I think we don't do ourselves justice because that's one, like for history especially, one person's interpretation of history. You take away the context, you just got dates and names, and you can rewrite whatever you want. And my sons, I show them on the internet all the time how the internet changes small details, or they leave out certain things that they've seen. 10 years later, we revisit it, and I show them how the internet has dropped certain information or changed little things where they're like, Dad, that's not what happened. And I try to expose them to that to understand, like, if you don't hold on to your truth, then the only thing that's left is their truth. And it's not okay.
Right. Or somebody else is going to try to tell it. I think that that's a really great point, Chap, that this revisionist history is like so typical of like American heritage. And I'm so grateful that now that so many people are writing about their own experiences in 1619 and all the black ass stuff that's happening. Like, people just need to understand that, you know, just because you rewrote the history doesn't wipe out, you know, those things actually happen. So documenting it in our own books, in our own language, in our own words, like, I love that. What were you
That's so
going to add,
good.
Sananda?
I was just going to say, look, everything you guys are saying, I'm just like, kudos, snaps, everything. I think you all just said so much. The first thing that comes to mind is what Chad said about when you're able to journal, you're able to put your thoughts, your perspective down, because in time, you know, sometimes that changes again, based on, like you said, maybe the data of it comes out, or even the emotion of it is what comes out. But if you put it down, it's closer to what happened. This is what happened. I saw something, and it's something that I try to instill in the young folks that I work with throughout Maryland. And Chap, you said it. It's about figuring out ways for people to be more reflective as opposed to reactive about things. If you can be reflective about things, right? And it's not to say that all reaction is bad, because to me, the bigger piece of it is being so reflective that your reactions show what you've reflected on. You've kind of visited, whether it's you've visited these experiences before, or you've had the opportunity to revisit other people's experiences, and you're able to learn from those experiences. Then again, that reaction to things is less hostile, but it kind of takes in the elements of you having reflected on, what would I do in this situation? What should I do? What did I do before in this situation that turned out bad? How can I turn this into a positive? So again, that reaction versus reflection is super duper important. Even like you said, that culture now of one teacher to 30 students. Oh man, being a former educator, it was just difficult, right? It was difficult to kind of be able to instill what you could into young people, do it in a way that makes them feel like they are actual individuals, and then again have to teach to the test, have to do A, B, and C. So it's just so much more important, which is why I got out of the classroom. Now I still teach, but it's non-traditional. it's
Absolutely
stuff, you know what I mean?
No, and that's to your point. That's exactly what we do, man. We try to train our young people to, like you said, not react, but respond. Response incorporates thought, and incorporates a pause and an intent. Because reaction can be dangerous. Our system is built for us to react and then punish us for our reactions. So we've got to be intelligent enough to respond to what's happening to us, to protect ourselves, to protect our children and our communities. It's very important. And I did not know. So where'd you teach?
So I started out as a kindergarten teacher at, and the school's actually closed now. It's NACA, Northwood Apple Community Academy. It was over in East Baltimore, not too far from Morgan. And I actually started out as a paraeducator, which is like a teacher's assistant. Then I got some credentialing, moved into kindergarten, then moved from kindergarten to fourth grade. So it was a great experience. Kindergarten was always awesome because, like, kindergartners, they do everything you do and say is just amazing to them. You're like, hey, letter A, now letter B. They're like, letter B. Yes. Like, it's amazing. But I had some super bright students. They were incredible. Some of those students are actually like graduating from college now. It's because it's years ago, so it's just amazing to see where they are. And then fourth grade, but again, now I'm excited to be able to go into schools throughout Maryland and work with them again on mental health, and whether it's mindfulness, or whether it's kind of de-escalating situations, or having an understanding of who they are, what their values are, and how that impacts their lives. And I love the way that you said it, Chap. It's about understanding how that, I call it again, that ripple effect, how things can impact whether it's your job, your community, your family now, and then we add on to that how they look at things in the future. And I love Quita, something that you said. You talked about again how like 1619 it's here now. Like we really do have to have an understanding of our history. like of our history in a way that shows us in places of figuring out what our strengths are and not having our strengths kind of beaten down and hid from us, but figuring out what our strengths are so that we're able to, again, make sure that our communities are okay. And then again, make sure our legacy is okay by pushing our vision for greatness on and on and on. And that vision that legacy has to be through giving, through collective impact, through us. That's the importance of it for sure.
You know what's interesting? So I'm sure at Morgan, being an HBCU, there was some African diaspora class, or maybe even your parents had you watch like Roots, and Cleopatra, and then said, Cleopatra was a Black woman, not a white woman like this Elizabeth Taylor. Okay, right? So it was really interesting to me, like in my adulthood, talking to other adult Black women and or men who are like, wait, so there were African kings and queens, like, and really imagined that our history started at slavery. Like, I did not. So my father is an older gentleman. Hello. My father is an older gentleman and was also a Vietnam vet. So super militant, very Black power, I'm with it. I'm with it. Angela Davis, when people see the fro, like, okay, great. My grandmother, Black Caucus, New York. And I think I was actually telling somebody this weekend. I think that I'm not impressed with like celebrity or fame because my grandmother knew like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, and I saw pictures with them, and I was able to meet them at knee high. Not that I remember it, but it was just like, oh, famous people are everywhere. But with all of those things, like the culmination of it all, it's just crazy to me that people could imagine that our history started at slavery, and that when I travel about the world, like people are surprised that I'm articulate and that I'm not a rapper and that I'm from America. I'm like, the propaganda of media, it's scary. You know what I mean? Like how powerful it is. And it even has some of us all shook up, which is the crazy thing.
Absolutely, 100%. And again, to me, that's one of the primary reasons why conversations like this are necessary. It's the reason why pushing past just conversations, but actual networking. Let's get together. Let's do some things. Like literally meeting you on Saturday, meeting you in person on Saturday. Like I said, I know about you. And then here on Monday. Yes, that's what we have to do. We have to make sure that we are forming bonds that will impact people, because to me, that's what carries. That's what'll carry in our travels. That's what'll carry because now my experience includes you all. It includes you. So now I can talk about, having this type of discussion with you all, talk about your viewpoints. Now I can feel even more confident walking into a classroom, talking to young people, because you know what? I talked to Quita, I talked to Chad. They feel kind of the same way about this. Yes. Even though, yes, I felt strongly about it, but you know what? The right messages will carry. So, and then again, there's just strength in numbers. So that being the case, it's important. And yes, at Morgan, it was like, we definitely had like African diaspora. We had that class specifically, African diaspora class, where we learned about Marcus Garvey, and we learned about like, hey man, we're gonna take this back to Africa. We learned about so much stuff. And it was important for us to learn that, because then as students, we started seeing the importance of having perspective, having the right perspective, what that perspective needs to be based in. And we also saw the importance of something that we talked about earlier, networking. We saw the importance of networking and being able to collectively make change happen. That's what's super duper important. Being able to make change happen. And you said it, Quita, being able to articulate our thoughts and perspectives with confidence, with energy, and with knowledge, knowing and being okay with how we feel about past happenings, being okay with our feelings, which again that's my mental health thing. Be okay with your feelings. Like it's okay to feel however you want to feel about it. Now let's get together and figure out how we can do this work. That's what the important thing is, for sure.
That is so funny. So I have a niece who is 4. She'll be 5 at the end of this month. And I saw her this weekend and she got really upset about something. And I was like, oh, Kaden, calm down. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, what do we do with our emotions? And she's like, oh yeah, we think about them and then we control them. And I'm like, right. So let's think about our emotions. Like, why are you so upset, baby girl? Like, what's going on? And now you want me to play with you, but you're being aggressive and rough. So now you got to control those emotions if you want to continue to engage with me. And like, people look at me like, I cannot believe you're talking to this child like this, but she understands it. So why not talk to this child like this? Like, she completely responds to it. She, she's a bossy little somebody or another, and that's fine. Like, live in that little girl. I love that about you. Like, no, own your feelings, right? But let's control them and let's be able to talk about it.
Powerful, powerful. And the reason why that's powerful, Chap, I'm sorry, I don't want you to lose your thought. Just real quick. One of the most powerful things that happened to me that made me start to really listen to young people, one of my 4th graders asked me, Mr. Edwards, is it possible for adults to bully children? And I was like, yeah. When we get to a point when we're not willing to discuss, we're not willing to listen, literally the only thing you're going to do is listen to me. I don't have to listen to you because I'm an adult. You're going to do what I said because I said it. It's kind of, and yes, we got to make sure that we're guiding our young people. We have to make sure that we're telling them our experiences, but it is important to make sure that young people feel heard. Very important. Chap, I'm sorry, brother.
No, you said it, bro. You said it. Validate their feelings. Validate their feelings. Yep, they need to know they're heard. They need to know that it's, when we were kids in the 90s in our environment, you're criminalized for being angry. We have every reason to be angry in Baltimore, right? Try being a white boy in a black neighborhood, right? Like, just saying.
Right. You're odd man out until
you're criminalized for it, right?
Yeah.
You're a problem. I had one. I got kicked out of a private school. The teacher told me I was he called me Satan. He's like, "You're Satan. Get out of my school." And I was like, "That's what I dealt with growing up. It was criminalized for being angry or for being burdened with trauma. It was punished. You got punished for it." And I'm so grateful for the conversations we can have now and the breakthroughs in our community. Being able to talk about this and being able to talk to my kids and validate, yes, you're angry, whatever, however you're feeling, and validate how you're feeling, and then be able to because we can have that conversation, we can talk about how to process that, right? And kids can understand the value of doing programs like maybe you don't want to grow up and be a soccer player, but go on the soccer team because this trauma or this emotions that you're struggling with, you can take it out on the field. You know what I mean? Or do this program or that program to help you organize your thoughts, or any myriad of things that can be accomplished, if for nothing else, to process trauma. So this is an awesome conversation, man. I really appreciate what you're doing. I look forward to connecting more. And so how can people, because we're having a great conversation, and I know that we'll have many more. I look forward to them. But on the immediate tip, how can people plug into you, support you? Do you need volunteers? Do you need money? What do you need?
Wow, I appreciate it. We're an organization that works with young people with regard to mental health, right? So what we need, there are a couple of things that we need. Thank you so much for putting the website up there. Get in contact with us if you have a young person that may be experiencing mental health obstacles, struggles. Please do that. If you know of therapists That's another thing that we really are looking to partner with more and more therapists. So we are currently a PRP program. Again, that means we do the one-on-one counseling with the help of the therapist and the family, right? We are going to be expanding. We received our go-ahead to expand into a full OMHC, which means outpatient mental health clinic. Yes, we're grateful for that. We'll be able to also serve adults. We'll also be able to serve substance abuse and things of that nature. And that means obviously we will also have to have ongoing full-time therapists, but we are not there yet. The reality is we're very efficient with the way we want to do things. So just because we got the go ahead to start the program, we may not start it for a year or two because we just want to make sure that we do it right. There's no other way to do it. It has to be done with integrity, blah, 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 right? So that being the case, again, therapists, we need to partner with therapists because we have so many young people who are in need of help. And right now, while we're still in this kind of pandemic period, because a lot of folks are like, oh, we're almost after the pandemic. No, we're still in it, right? So therapists have large waiting lists. So if you service young people, if you're a therapist and you service young people, if you accept medical assistance, right now, that's what we accept to help our young people. If you're a therapist that accepts medical assistance, that would be huge. I'm also, please also support me and my fellow fearless doers. I've been selected as an ambassador with a startup. It's called Fearless Sports. It is, if you know, Delali Daraza, he does amazing in the tech world. He's doing amazing work in the tech world. That's Fearless. But he started an organization called Fearless Sports, which gives a platform to what we call the doers. So it's myself, it's Erica Bridgeford with regard to mediation. It's Rashad Staten, who is a change agent for change. My man Jonathan Moore, who's doing great things in the tech world, and then Brittany, who is doing great things with B360. But again, by buying the apparel, you're helping all of those organizations receive money. So I don't need to necessarily ask for money specifically, but you can do two things. You can support Fearless Sports, which is a Black-owned apparel company. And again, the great thing, I have to keep saying, and I know I'm a teacher, I repeat myself. The great thing about it is they're not going after athletes as the ambassadors of their brand. They're going after people in the Baltimore community who are trying their best to make an impact, and they are pushing us to the forefront, which kind of helps me deal with my anxiety because I got to make sure I'm on point. But it's an amazing, amazing thing, and we're proud of the work that we've been doing. So please go to Fearless.
I wanted to say I'm proud of you guys. I know Rashad and Jonathan. They were both Bunting fellows, and I found out about the Bunting Neighborhood Leadership Program through Rashad at a CFUF program, Practitioners Leadership Institute. So yes, being in the mix with all of the know and all of what you guys are doing, and Dion is just amazing.
Love her.
Love
her. Love
it. It's just a whole love fest, and I'm super glad that you remembered to bring it up because it completely slipped my mind. I think that's super amazing. Absolutely. And also, I just wanted to wanted to shout out Mark King, who both of us know, way down in Houston, Texas somewhere. I'm gonna make sure he knows that we shouted him out on the show.
Yes, but, love you, Mark. Love you, bro.
He helped Baltimore to launch and was on the board. Super amazing. And like I said, also another person that poured into the community and, students. 100%. So continuing to, build this community and talk about all of these things. Chap was saying, how do people continue to support you? How do people continue to follow what you got going on? So do you have a website, your Instagram also?
All that, yes. So please follow www.aiahealth.org is our website. You can definitely follow us on Instagram. You can follow me personally at Sanonda. That's TSANONDA. And you can follow Above It All on Instagram as well. It's Above It All _MD. And then you can follow us on Facebook as well. Above It All _Baltimore on Facebook. So please follow us, inbox us if you'd like to get our newsletter. We try to send out a newsletter at the very least quarterly. And in that newsletter, obviously, we give you tips on mental health. Every day, we try to give you tips on mental health at above-it-all_MD. So please follow us there. Tips that you can use or pass on to someone else. And then, of course, we're trying to really pump up our newsletter because we want to try to get people involved in different ways. We have a couple businesses, again, Brandon Wiley, the vice president of Wiley Funeral Home, also owner of Flores de Vie flower shop. And again, we're working even now to kind of get some funds for Christmas to make sure that our families and others are taken care of. So please follow us at on Instagram, on Facebook, holler at our website, all that good stuff. And we're looking forward to working with everyone, as many as we can.
All right.
Absolutely. Love it, love it, love it. And so people can run this back and see the show on the Baltimore Homes YouTube channel, Donnie Glover YouTube channel, or Black USA News on Facebook. And then, Chap, do you have the other shows in front of you? I know we're daily 10 a.m. and daily 7 p.m., I think.
Yep. So every morning, 10 a.m. is a Donnie Glover show. He has pretty awesome guests and lawyers and council people and political spectrum of guests. He does an evening show Tuesdays at 7, I believe. We have Sister Biz on Wednesday. I think we have Black Business Roundtable out of California on Thursday. We've got Kamal Hubbard out of California talking crypto on Friday. We've got Saturday morning. Sister does a show out of New York, which is awesome. 10:15 on Saturday mornings. The Blackout Live is amazing. And then Saturday evening or Sunday evening, there's 60 Minutes with Mike Haney. So, yeah, we got a ton of good shows if you guys want to tune in. The shows are listed on blackusa.news. Just one more plug again. If you guys see this book, pick it up. Let's share in Sananda's journey, and as he shares in ours, which he's already done with the book. So it's out there for you. And it looked like, again, I said, I just look forward to building a bigger network, a bigger family. Baltimore's one big family. Welcome to the family. And it's my privilege to serve my kings and queens. And I'm so grateful for Quita for pointing out that our history did not begin with slavery. It's important because our kids don't know that if we don't tell them, because that's what the school tells them. So it's a good place to start. And then as we continue the journey and educate our kids, we need books like this to tell the true history of our people. So thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for coming out. God bless and good night, folks. We'll be back next Monday.